know that I was going to be on the air since, according to Club Log, Iceland is a needed country, especially on the low bands on 40 meters. 20 meters, it's pretty common, but there's not many people that are active on 40 meters, which is a band I was planning on using most anyways because of the time of day there when I could get on the air late afternoon. So I decided to let DX World and DX News, which are the two DX websites. I never heard anything back from DX World, but I get the impression that they'll only put stuff on the website for pretty big DXpeditions and rare countries, so I never heard back from them. I submitted this to DX News right before I went to bed. 12 hours later, when I got up and checked it, the guy who owns the website, who lives in Georgia, not the state, but the country, over near Russia, he had it up on his website. And as you can see, this was a couple days ago, I took the screenshot, and it ended up having about 2,265 views. So a lot of people saw it. By the time I woke up in the morning, 12 hours after, this is the only place I let know that I was going to be on the air. There was posts about it on QRZ.com. And there was somebody, one of my friends up in Canada had posted it on eHam, and there's all sorts of people from all over the world commenting on it. And apparently I was also popular with the Spanish. I'm not sure what all this says, but I see my call sign on there, so. evidently there's something in there about me. I kind of get the idea from what I can.
Watch out for this guy.
Yeah. So what I did, I set up a little QRZ page, which I didn't take a picture of. I don't know why I didn't do that, but I put a little flag counter on the bottom, and you can see where which countries have been looking at your page and how many views you have. And after I posted it on these websites, I saw some flags starting to show up, and then they kind of tapered off after a couple days. And then all of a sudden, one afternoon, I noticed there had been a huge spike, hundreds of lookups, and I was like, what in the world? And I couldn't figure it out. And then a few hours later, I finally figured out somebody, I still haven't figured out who, but somebody let the ARRL know, and there's further on down, there's a picture of me and all sorts of stuff. I have no idea where they got the pictures from. But I was on the front page of the ARRL news here, so that was super cool. A lot of people saw it there, and that's why I had the big spike in lookups on my QRZ.com page. And that was the day before we left. I saw that in the afternoon right as we were getting everything loaded up into the car. So before we went to Iceland, we didn't want to do all of our traveling in one big go. You'd have to go from here to Atlanta to Huntsville, where the group's meeting, back to Atlanta, then up to New York, and then over to Iceland, and that would be a miserable 2 days of traveling. So we decided to go down to Alabama 2 days before, which is where my grandmother lives, in Huntsville. And we got there in the morning, and we had a problem. I went to put everything up on the air, and I don't even know if I told you this, but you're about to hear it. So when we set the antenna up, Harlan came over with his analyzer, and we thought we had everything positioned how it needs to be, and the SWR was really low. Apparently, when you set it up in a different location, the SWR is completely different, and I keyed up, and it was just off the charts high SWR, and I was like, oh no, what do we do now? So I tried moving the taps around, but I wasn't really adept at doing that yet. So fortunately, my grandmother lives about a mile away from the only Gigaparts ham radio store, which I never knew, or I would have visited there when I was down there at her house before. Just discovered it a few weeks before we went on the trip. So in a hurry, we went over there and we bought an analyzer for me to use, and it didn't actually really work very well. So eventually I got the taps in the right place after messing with it for hours and finally figured out how to adjust everything right. And we ended up returning the analyzer since it didn't work. But I finally got it on the air as the sun was setting, and I threw the antenna up right next to the house, so it was picking up, all sorts of racket from my grandmother's house. S9 plus 10 noise. As you can see, that's what it was on the meter without any signals present. But there was the Oklahoma QSO party going on, and there was some guy from Oklahoma who was like 40 over, so I called him, and he heard me, and I called a guy in Canada, and worked a couple others in the Northeast on 40 meters. So I knew I was getting out somewhere, so that was good. I stopped panicking after that. And I don't know if I can get this to play since this did something weird. Okay, so I know the video is a little bit shaky, but this is where the antenna was outside, so you can kind of see how tall it was. The radio is sitting in here, and the radio wire runs out that way, but you can't really see it. So that's where it was set up when we were in Alabama. And then the next day, which was our last day before we left, I had some free time. And as you can see, there's a barn out there, and the vertical doesn't pick up very much noise out there. It's only atmospheric noise, S3 or so. And I worked a bunch of stations in the Wisconsin QSO party and just calling CQ, probably 30 or 40 guys just in the afternoon. those were all on 40 meters. I didn't want to mess with anything since I had it working. I was, didn't want to get to Iceland and have to re-put things up, and it wasn't going to work properly. Not sure what that's supposed to be. Aha. Okay, so we made it to Iceland. This was the first night in the pretty much the only real civilization in Iceland, which is Reykjavik, the capital city. And I don't have a picture of it, but there's up on top behind these, back up here behind these little, up here near the roof, there's a balcony. And I figured, oh, it'd be easy. I can get up there and I can set up an antenna and the life will be good and I can make a few contacts in the afternoon there. No, apparently only the people that are the preferred customers or whatever, they wouldn't let me up on the roof to put up an antenna. They said it's only for their special people that have the fancy suites and stuff. So there was no getting on the air from that hotel, which was really disappointing. And I couldn't put it out down here since it's in the middle of the city. And I get the impression that would probably be frowned upon. And plus the noise from the city, I knew it would be crazy, and there's no chance of me making any contact. So I figured, you know what, let's just wait till we go to Vik, which the way the hotels are set out there, there's nothing out there in Vik. The population's like 200. And the hotels are like cabin bungalow style single story things. So I had a lot more space to put up antennas. So we got there, and when we went to have dinner, it was really cold, and there was a little bit of wind, but it wasn't bad. And I decided to set up the radio in the hotel room and run the coax out of the window and set up the antenna out in the yard in front of the hotel. So as I was setting it up, all of a sudden we had a huge snowstorm come through. The wind was, I looked it up afterwards on the historical weather data, the normal wind speed was 25 miles an hour, gusting to 40. The temperature was 28 degrees. With the wind chill, there's evidently two different scales. The old scale would have made the wind chill -9 degrees Fahrenheit. The new scale said 10 degrees Fahrenheit, so we can split the difference and say it was about 0. And as the wind started gusting, I had it halfway set up, and it kept knocking the vertical over. So I was like, okay, so now we're going to have to rethink this. And I noticed that the wind was coming in from the ocean. This is right near the ocean, so the wind is horrible here. And it was just knocking the vertical over. So I said, well, maybe if we go back behind the building, it'll be sheltered from, the antenna will be sheltered from the wind. Not exactly. The vertical is tall enough to where the wind sweeps over the roof and hits the top, very top part of the antenna, and kept knocking it over and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. I did get it eventually. I had to get it really close to the building, but it stayed up for a good 15 minutes, and only to find out the noise level was, again, S9 plus 10, and I couldn't hear anybody, and nobody could hear me. And then it fell over again, and I gave up for the night. So at this point, I was thinking, okay, so this is hopeless. I have 0 chance of making any contacts with this kind of weather and this kind of noise. So I was about to give it up there, but I decided to give it one more try the next day. And as you can tell from the pictures, it was a lot better. We decided to go to the furthest away building and get the antenna as far away from the noise as we possibly could. And even there, the noise level was about S8 to S9. But those 2 S unit drops made a very big difference. And plus, no wind and great weather. It was good. It was still cold. I had to sit outside, and the weather was right around 30 degrees or something like that. But there was no wind, and it wasn't snowing. And I got on 40 meters, and there's some DX station that was working split, and I heard a bazillion Europeans calling him. So I knew that I could get out to somewhere. So since the noise level was so high, it's hard to find a clear frequency. You don't know if there's somebody that's on there. They could be S7, and I won't hear them at all. So fortunately, there's a handy-dandy little thing called websdr.org, and it's super cool. You guys should check it out. And you can go on and pick little SDR receivers all over the world, and you can listen to how your signal sounds. So I would go through and find a clear frequency, and I started calling CQ. And finally, I heard the beautiful sound of G3ZAY from the UK calling me, and I was like, yes! Finally, somebody heard me, and then right after I finished with him, a guy in Finland called, and then it was silent for about 30 minutes. I think somebody started coming up on frequency and was giving me some bad QRM. So I moved, and I found a clear frequency, and I got spotted a couple of times from some Europeans, and I started making contacts. This is part of the log here, and this isn't all of it, but you can see I was making contacts into Europe. There's 0 chance of working the U.S. at this time of day, since it's late afternoon there. That's around lunchtime here, and there's 0 propagation on 40 meters at that time of day. So I was working, the best DX was Russia here, and that was way down near Georgia, the country. Really, I don't know exactly what the distance is. There's a map I'll show in a minute. That actually might be the next slide. Oh wait, no, it's not. So those are some of the contacts that I made on 40. Before we get on to all the countries that I worked, I got a chance to introduce quite a few people to ham radio on the tour group here. They were all very curious about what I was doing outside in the cold with the wire strung up into the air, and I had to have the door partly open to that particular hotel because I had to get inside to plug the power supply in. They were, naturally a bit curious about what I was doing. So I had a chance to explain to a lot of people how it worked, and they got to hear me make some QSOs. And there's another group from Canada that was there with us, so there was quite a few people. My favorite one, there's a waiter that works at this hotel, and evidently there's some sort of, I don't know what the proper word is for it, where they come and work in Iceland for a couple months and then they go back to their home country. And he was from here in the Czech Republic. And fortunately, as you saw in the previous slide here, the second from the top here, I talked to somebody in the Czech Republic. So you'll see why it's cool in a minute. He saw me outside and he wanted to know what I was doing when I was in there getting dinner, which, by the way, I was foregoing dinner to make these contacts because I knew this is probably the only day I have to get on the air. And Mom was like, "You've got to come in and eat." I was like, "No, I can't." There's a bunch of people calling me. So I did get dinner. Mom got me some and I had it later. But anyways, the waiter wanted to know what I was doing out there. And his English is very, very poor. And as you can imagine, me trying to explain something like ham radio in broken English to a guy that has no idea what I'm saying, that took quite a few attempts. He finally understood how I was talking. And at first he thought it was kind of like cell phones, like I was just talking to somebody on the radio, and had tried to explain to him how it worked, and it'd bounce off the atmosphere and come back down. And I'm pretty sure he eventually got it, and he thought it was super cool, especially after I told him I talked to that guy, which that's the only picture I could find of him online, but that guy, OK6AZ in the Czech Republic, he thought that was the coolest thing in the world, so he was asking me all sorts about it. And I tried to answer as best as I could, which probably wasn't very well, but I think he caught the gist. So that was one of the coolest moments of the whole trip related to ham radio. The next day, my hopes weren't high because it's hard to see the snow, but you can see it's just blowing in this picture here, and that's when we got off the bus. And it calmed down just enough so I could get the antenna up, but I had to, again, put it in that sheltered spot, and the noise was awful. So I tried calling CQ, and I wasn't getting any responses that I could hear. Evidently, a lot of people were calling me that I just couldn't hear at all. I did some search and pounce, and I worked at a special event station in Austria, and the guy in Spain was the loudest. He was actually one of the further stations I talked to, but as you'll see in the next slide, or slide after next, there's a map. There's nothing between Iceland and Spain except for water. So he was 40 over S9. And right as it was getting very late, it's still very early for the US, but there was some superstation up in the northeast that all of a sudden I just heard him just barely above the noise, and I called him, and I'm sure he could hear me, but this guy gets massive pileups, so there's a boatload of Europeans calling him, and then he faded back into the noise. So that was my only time I ever heard anybody in the US, so I thought he could hear me, but evidently not. So I just settled for a couple guys in Europe. And I had a video here, but I don't think you'll be able to hear it. And I guess I can play it so you guys can just see the noise level. This is when I was, oh, there's a speaker. Hold on, he'll talk in a second. So that's the noise level I'm dealing. It's hard to hear him because of the noise level, but that's ON7TQ in Belgium. And there's a bunch of, right across from me, there's a bunch of Canadians having a party, so that was interesting. They were very loud. So I had to, and then after they went to bed, this is like 10 or 11 p.m., everybody's in bed, so I didn't want to make a bunch of noise calling, so fortunately the 450 has a little handy-dandy voice recorder feature, so I programmed it in with my call sign, and the only time I'd have to talk is to respond back with a signal report, which was good. I didn't have any long drawn-out conversations because these were all guys running pileups. Okay, so here's the map I've been telling you about. These don't show the individual contacts, but just the countries that I worked. And this is the particular, I just kind of guessed, I just put in the center of the country, but this here is the particular spot where the guy in Russia was. And that was my best DX. So this was all on 40 meters in the afternoon, which is regional at best. So I was looking, I had some propagation maps that I printed out before. In working Russia on here, I only had like a 30 or 40% chance according to the software. And with that kind of noise, I'm very surprised that I did. So that was really neat. So these were all the contacts, and as like I mentioned earlier, between Iceland and Spain, there's nothing but water. So that's a perfect saltwater path. And being right there, just a quarter mile from the ocean, really amplifies your signal too. So I think that was a big help for me. Okay, so a couple things that happened afterwards that I'll touch on real quickly. I got back to Alabama. I got sick from sleep deprivation on the way home because our flight got delayed 7 hours. We had to spend the night in Atlanta, and that was awful. But I recovered for a day, and then I came down with the flu the next day. That was horrible, trying to get home and fly on the airplane when I had the flu. Not fun. But I made some DXQSOs on 20 meters once I felt it was safe to mess with the antenna, and I made some European contacts off the little portable, which is very nice. I put all of my contacts on the QRZ logbook of the world, and club log, so that stuff's on the QRZ page. And I was contacted by, and I know I spelled that wrong, I just now realized I spelled that wrong. Yeah, that's not spelled right. I was featured on the Amateur Radio Newsline program, and he had me do a phone call interview, and that's online somewhere that you can listen to it. And I was also contacted to present on my DXpedition, and I'll be doing this at the Dayton Hamfest. Well, not in Dayton anymore, but I'll be presenting at the Youth Forum in next year. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'll probably be using this presentation. I might expand on it a little bit, but it'll probably be similar to this I'll be presenting on up in Dayton. So that's the presentation here, and now I'm sure hopefully there'll be some questions and we can take care of business. Any questions?
I would like to point out on my mother's behalf, since she's not here, that all that mud you saw in Alabama, she's having her yard completely redone. Please don't think that we don't have grass in Alabama.
Okay, any other questions?
One thing you should have done was got some money out of DX Engineering, which I know she got a shirt on, for your DXpedition. That would have been a good idea.
Yeah, I know. That would have been good. I wouldn't have had to pay for it myself.
How many total contacts did you get, Jason?
It's kind of a dismal number. It's like 25 or 30. But considering how things were looking the first day, I was excited just to hear that first guy in the UK. I was like, oh, I just had to make one contact, so I knew it was worth to lug all that stuff over. So 25 is a lot more than I was expecting after that first freezing night.
What's your total time on air?
Well, on the air, it was probably maybe only 2 to 3 hours, probably say about 3 hours on the air total, but there was also a lot of time trying to set up the antenna. And I remember I was emailing you saying, how can I make this thing stay up? It keeps falling over. And I didn't have anything to anchor it with, so.
Your little brother could have held the tripod.
He wasn't there. I would have got it. I was like,
No way
Mom,
Mom was going to stand out in the car. I guarantee you.
Mom wasn't.
Mom,
You, Grandma might have.
I'll pay you $100 if you go ahead and hold this thing up while I'm on here.
See what Steven's got down there.
How was it going through customs both ways with the radio gear?
I forgot to mention that. That's something I need to add to the presentation here. Okay, so that was interesting. I ended up going through a total of, how many times do you think we went through customs? Mom was like 7 times. It was a lot because we stayed in, it was a lot of times because since we stayed in Alabama twice, she had to go through customs all over again, and upon entering in Iceland. Greensboro, which is the first one on the way out, the guy was looking at it. He's looking on the X-ray. He couldn't figure out what in the world I had in there. You know, I mean, you got a bunch of little boxes with wires sticking out everywhere. That doesn't make the best impression. So I had the documentation that I needed. He wanted to know what it was, so I said it's ham radio equipment. And he goes, "Oh, do you know my brother? He lives in Ohio, and he's a ham radio operator." And I was like, "Maybe." I was like, "Oh yeah. Give me his call sign. I'd probably talk to him." But so that was good. The only place that didn't care was Huntsville, probably because the Redstone Arsenal's there and they see all sorts of weird stuff. They didn't even bat an eye at it. Every other place, it had to get stopped, pulled aside, swabbed for explosives and who knows what else, and they had to dig through it. And yeah, it was kind of interesting. It didn't take that long. I didn't have to get questioned or anything like that. They just brought it to the side and dug through there.
It's better to do it as a carry-on than put it on your...
Yeah, because there's no telling if you've seen some of those guys.
What it would happen.
I mean, you see some of these guys loading up the planes. They're just throwing this stuff in there. So yeah, I just wanted to have it so I could keep an eye on it because that was my entire home station too. So if that got lost or damaged, that wasn't going to make me very happy because I had to pay for that.
I mean, because Stephen's question, he asked about customs, and you weren't talking about, you were just talking about going through security. But
Yeah, well, customs
was when you went into, remember the nice lady who
Mm.
had no sense of humor in Iceland? Who made me prove that you were my son
Yes, that was a good thing the person told you about it beforehand.
Yeah, I had to show proof that Mason was not, I wasn't taking him out of the country away from his father. She wasn't
Oh, my
kidding.
God.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh, hi.
We're like, haha, and she was just like,
But,
let me see your passport again.
and then when we went through customs in JFK,
Hmm.
we were stuck in this line like.
That was the most miserable
I mean,
experience
I
of my
couldn't
life.
even imagine how many people and how we were going to get through to catch our.
And that was right as I was getting sick too, so I was just dragging myself to the airport. That was bad.
So they waved us through like this express lane because
We would have missed our flight.
And so they didn't really look.
No, they just put it up there and
They didn't care.
went on through.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the places though they had to pull it aside and look through it and
Yeah,
ask me
because
what it was.
people really didn't care that much about your equipment.
Yeah, now the customs people, you know, I was reading on Iceland's the IRA's website. They said that you shouldn't have any problems, and I had been in contact with one of the TF3JB, which is one of the really active DXers in Iceland, asking him the questions that I needed. And he said that I shouldn't have any problems. And he said, really, if they ask you, just show them, because he's evidently like the president of their association. He's like, just show them a copy of this email, and they'll let you through. So I had that, and there he said, if worse comes to worse, there's a phone number of this guy that works there that'll tell them that you're okay to get through. So I didn't have any problems with customs.
They had serial numbers of all your equipment.
Yeah, I typed all that out. They said they probably won't ask for it. You'll probably be perfectly fine, but just in case, especially in some of these other countries, especially out here in the Caribbean, it's really bad. You'll get your stuff confiscated if you don't have the serial numbers and proof that you purchased it. But they didn't really seem to care about it in customs. It was just the TSA wondering what all these little boxes were that I had in this little case.
Did they move you through customs faster after you came down with the flu?
No.
I don't really remember much of coming home.
No, it came down with flu after we got through customs.
That was bad.
It was a 30, it ended up being 31 hours to get home.
Mhm. Yeah, I was awake for 27 hours. 27. It was 27. Yeah, that was the worst 27 hours of my life.
But you'd do it again, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would. Hopefully there'll be another expedition in the future soon. Hint, hint.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I love the enthusiasm, and I know every one of you who's licensed, you've been there. You know what it's like to feel, oh, I don't want to eat, I want to play. You know, that sort of thing. I'm going to start a sheet up here. My name, call letters, and telephone number for the Elmers. And those who want to add your name to the list, please come up and do that. Let me have that mic.
Can't really see what I'm doing here.
Not going in your pocket either. Yes, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. All right, I'm back. Where was I? Elmer's piece of paper. Somebody will have a pen. There's a pen right there. Feel free to call us because, you know, like I say, we may not have the right answer, but we'll dig around and get an answer, and hopefully it'll work for you. There's something I wanted to bring up just real quick. Anybody have any questions about anything that's gone on tonight? The bills, where is it? Okay, well, I can't remember what it was now. Oh yes, I found it. We have a couple of needs, and you guys are the ones that'll have to provide. I guess you know that our ham radio ham fest for January is not going to be at Summit School this year. We're not doing it at Summit School, at least in January. It's going to be at the Robin Hood Road Baptist Church, which is right out Robin Hood Road, real easy place to get to, and a good facility. But we need a couple of guys that can help. Steve and Dave know the minister and everything out there, but there's no reason for them to have to do everything. We need to sort of facilitate a plan, to look at the building, figure out where we're going to put vendors and where we're going to have our refreshments and this and that, you know, just the little details. But things that'll be very important come Friday evening when the guys start bringing their stuff in to sell. Just need a couple of guys to help them with that. You can volunteer now or you can see them afterwards, but that definitely needs to happen. And also, Jim Register, our secretary, who does a lot of work already, needs somebody to work with him as the membership chairman as we go into the next year. There's a lot of emails and things that have to go out. Got to work the list. Jim knows all the things that need to be done. But it's really important that he gets some help. So somebody please step up and help him. And just so you know, all of the officers got together a couple of weeks ago and we had lunch to talk about the future. And we're all open to whatever suggestions you might have. But one of the things that we talked about amongst ourselves is we need to make these jobs spread out a little bit to make them easier. That way you don't burn out with it, because it can kick your tail really bad. So think about it. Please help us out. And we're here for you. We just want to help you out. That's pretty much it on my end. Anybody have anything else? Yes, sir.
If anybody's not getting the newsletter, we're working on the mailing list. Come see me and make sure I've got your email address. Make sure I do that right.
Okay. Dale, do you have a report for us, sir?
I can report on both of them. The VEs, we had an unusual session tonight. We were overwhelmed with the number of VEs, and
Here.
all of them, there's a rope I can stand. We're overwhelmed with the number of VEs, so we do appreciate that. Would you go ahead and stand up if you were a VE tonight? Not everybody is here, so a couple of them left. So, again, thank you, folks. Get this mic up right. Thank you. Without them, we wouldn't have a program. We had a rip-roaring one candidate tonight. We had 100%. We had 100%. Yeah, thanks, John. I should have said that first. So, let's see. She's not here. I think she left. Is she here? Oh, no. It was. We're talking about KM4 PBU, KK4 Zena Hughes' wife, Pastor General. So I don't think they could stay around. Anyway, I think I broke the clip. I'll just keep it up like this. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Need somebody technical, or is that better?
You just blew.
That's why your repeaters don't work, folks. Yeah. So, yeah, it's getting better. So, but anyway, we expect probably to have maybe 3 or 4 next month. There were 2 that canceled and 2 that were no-shows. So we would have had, with my math's right, 5. But we've had more than that before. Now on the repeaters, it's all basically good news. Go back. 145.47 is up, and I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. 146.64 is up, but it's still got that interference problem. We got to figure out what we can do. There's some equipment we looked at. The company's no longer in business, so we'll look at some other alternatives, and I'll talk to Don later. The 440 machine's up, but not working well, and there's a replacement envisioned for that. The Echolink node in the back room here, we had a problem last month because our host provider here, Red Cross, made some innovative changes in the internet. So that's been fixed, that's working. And the Echolink node at home that we have for 4.7 is working. Now for 2 things on 4.7. First, we had a unplanned trip up last Saturday, and Jerry and I went up. It's okay to say something about 315? The 147.315 machine is down and will be for some period of time. There was. Okay, great. That'd be. We'll get that up. That's just a little bit further down the mountain from the 145.47 machine. So the concerns with that are being solved. Ran up to the 4.7 machine and thought, boy, it'd be a good time to take the repeater controller off our 220 machine at home, throw it in there, put it up there, and try to do 2 things at once. Put that in, take out the burned out controller, take it down. Well, we took out the burned out controller, that worked great, put in the other controller that was working fine at home, and it wouldn't, all the settings were right, it wouldn't take any DTMF tones, it wouldn't work at all, and in theory, the RF just saturated the thing. We're going to have to get probably a lot of toroids, big toroids, and some other things, and try to shield it. Maybe put capacitive coupling going into the box and figure out what it will be, because there's some new RF up there and we have some interference. But the 4.7 machine is still working okay. And then the last thing, we had some opportunities, unwanted opportunities on the Vagabond net this afternoon from about 2:30 to 3:30. We had some jamming that was interfering with the net controller, causing some problems. I think you heard it, Harlan. So that has been solved. It's nobody in this room to give you some relief. The station was tracked down. We know who it is. It's taken off the air right now, so hopefully that won't be a problem in the future. But if you folks do hear that on the side, occasionally you'll hear a heterodyne underneath or whatever, and you're able to get some idea to help us out to try to keep the repeater clean, send me an email. I'd appreciate it. And then we'll get with those individuals and see if we can convince them to cease that type of operation. So good news, everything looks like it's okay going forward, but we'll continue to monitor. And if there are issues, there's a lot of resources out there, so we are able to track them down. Any questions at this point? Okay, thanks again.
Can I do a real quick follow-on from what Dale just talked about for the heater?
Follow on, make it quick.
It will, real quick. Sure. Well, to follow on, because Dale was talking about the repeaters. Thursday night, we ran a simplex exercise on the Aries net. We dropped off the repeater to see how well we could do. Anybody want to guess how well we did that didn't participate? Okay. The exercise was actually, in my view, a very good exercise, and it was a success. Not because we couldn't communicate, but because we identified some very specific needs. If we don't have repeaters, we're going to have to really maximize the use of external antennas and higher power radios to be able to communicate and function. So that's something, again, we're going to run later on. We're going to continue to run it, but we're going to try to identify stations throughout the county that are able to hear other stations, and then we'll have to kind of work in a loop and so forth. Dale's had some other good ideas, and I encourage anybody that's got an idea to make Aries better or how we can communicate simplex-wise, any information, any ideas you have, throw them my way. We'll try anything once. Thanks.
Okay, I guess that's about it. Anybody have anything else, or do I hear a motion?
Motion to go away.
Go away, he says. Let's go away. Enjoy. Talk and enjoy. I think I'm gonna let Henry